Okay, we'll get started.
Alrighty.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're here to talk about redistricting this morning for the school district. This is not talking about changing the school district boundaries for schools. This is talking about for the Board of Trustee areas that each have an area that they are responsible for. There are 7 trustees on the board of the Central Unified School District, and each one has a geographical area that was assigned to them. And we started with these trustee areas about 10 years ago, and now it's time to look at redistricting, and we'll go through that process with you this morning. So thank you for being here and joining us. We will be using the chat feature on the Zoom today. So if you have any questions, you can put them on chat or comments, and you can also raise your hand if you'd like. We are shooting for about a 1-hour time frame, so give or take. So that gives you an idea of what we're going to be doing. And so we would like to let you know that there's also translation available, and that's coming up in the chat box now as well. So I will introduce William, and he can make an announcement for that.
Buenos días. Si necesitan servicio de interpretación en español, esta junta también se va a estar traduciendo. Entonces, pueden ir abajo en su pantalla donde tengan el símbolo del mundo, hacer clic ahí, y entonces ahí pueden ver la opción de español o Spanish. Hagan clic ahí también, y donde dice Mute Original Audio, para que escuchen solamente la junta en español. Entonces, esta es la junta de distribución de diferentes áreas del distrito, de acuerdo con la cantidad de miembros que tenemos en la mesa directiva, y a cada miembro de la mesa directiva se le tiene asignada un área del distrito, y eso es lo que vamos a discutir en la presentación de hoy, la reestructuración de esas áreas de asistencia de acuerdo a la cantidad de miembros de la mesa directiva.
Thank you, William. And I'll also introduce Kulwant, and she will be interpreting it as well. Kulwant, would you like to get on?
First, I want to say I was not able to hear William. Is he already in the interpretation room? Or I don't know if everybody else was able to hear William. No,
I was able to
okay.
hear him.
Okay.
Nora is saying yes. Yeah.
So, ਹਾਂਜੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਜ਼ੂਮ ਦੀ ਸਕਰੀਨ ਦੇ ਹੇਠਾਂ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਧਰਤੀ ਦੇ ਚਿੰਨ੍ਹ ਤੇ ਕਲਿੱਕ ਕਰੋ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਭਾਸ਼ਾ ਦੀ ਚੋਣ ਕਰੋ ਅਤੇ ਮਿਊਟ ਓਰੀਜਨਲ ਆਡੀਓ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਕਲਿੱਕ ਕਰ ਦਿਓ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ
Okay, thank you. So this is our first meeting of 4 community meetings that we have coming up. First one today, and we'll be going through that schedule with you as well. This will culminate in a board meeting at the end of January February, when we will the board will make a decision on the trustee areas, looking at some different map options that we're going to be looking at. So today we just kind of want to give an introduction to redistricting and also show you some tools. So we have our consultants with us today, and I want to introduce them. This is the company is called Geonovo, and I want to introduce Alex Sains to you, and he will introduce his colleague. But Alex, I will hand it over to you. And if you could hold on just a minute, Alex, I think we're having a little trouble. I'm looking at the chat with the Spanish. So let me get the interpretation going again. Just hold on one more minute. Try this again. Kulwant, is it working for you okay? William, let me know if you are able to.
Kulwant cannot, oh, okay. She says yes. It is William, the one that is not.
Okay, I tried to send him another update.
Okay, William is good. We're ready to
Okay.
go. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, Alex, I'll let you take it from here.
Good morning. Thanks, Steve. Good morning to everyone. My name is Alex Sains. I am the GIS project manager with Geonovo Solutions. And today we'll be providing the public with a brief intro to redistricting and the services that we'll be providing for Central Unified School District. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started here. Yeah, so today we're gonna provide a high-level intro to redistricting and Geonovo's plan for this project. Redistricting is the process of adjusting or rebalancing district boundaries every 10 years after the release of this decennial census data. This process occurs for federal, state, and local government bodies who have districts for elected officials. At a high level, the goal of this process is to achieve population balance for equal representation across districts. The California Fair Maps Act was passed in 2019 to implement specific criteria for public agencies to follow during the redistricting process. As a best practice, Geonovo recommends the following criteria defined by the California Fair Maps Act. The criteria are listed below in order of priority. Number 1, districts shall be geographically contiguous. Number 2, to the extent practicable, districts shall maintain the geographic integrity of local neighborhoods and communities of interest. 3, to the extent practicable, minimize the division of cities and census designated places. 4, districts shall be easily identifiable to residents by natural and artificial barriers. And 5, to the extent practicable and where it does not conflict with the preceding criteria, districts shall be geographically compact. At a high level, the redistricting plan contains 5 phases or milestones. The first is project planning and demographic analysis, which we are getting started on that today with the first public meeting. Now, number 2, community input and public meetings. This phase is critical and will continue for the duration of the project. Number 3, review district boundaries. Number 4, presentation of map candidates to the Board of Trustees. And then 5 is the last step, and that would be the adoption of the final approved maps. Geonovo will provide our redistricting and technology expertise throughout this project. As described in our proposal, additional community engagement activities or initiatives will be managed or contracted separately by Central Unified School District. Central Unified School District has established a public meeting schedule for redistricting. The schedule includes a morning meeting today, evening meetings, and a weekend meeting on January 15th to enable community members with varying schedules to participate in the redistricting process. Central Unified School District and Geonovo expect to complete the redistricting process by February 2022. Geonovo offers a full suite of technology tools to help Central Unified School District engage with the community. Our Geocim, or community input maps, enable public input in 3 languages: English, Spanish, and Punjabi. The interactive mapping tool has been recently deployed and will enable community members to submit draft districts and communities of interest. The interactive dashboard enables the community to view demographic data by trustee area and compare current geography to proposed geography. And just as a side note, that'll be made available after the second public meeting. And as a final note on our technology tools, coming soon, we will be deploying a lookup tool for school attendance areas and Board of Trustee areas. A map of the current trustee areas shows that there is an opportunity to update the geography to meet the best practices of the California Fair Maps Act. I will now hand it over to our demographer, Jesus Garcia, to provide an overview of the demographic data behind the currently defined geography. Jesus?
Jesus, you're muted. Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, so as we can see, the current population of Central Unified School District is at 81,490 people, and it's distributed among the 7 trustee areas. As you can see, we have a high of about 12,361 and a low of about 10,864. So what that tells us is that there's more than likely an opportunity to readjust the line so that they are more equally balanced. At this time, the population of the district is about 48.4% persons of Latino origin. And again, that's from a high of about 55% to a low of about 39%. And you can see the rest of the distribution there. So Central Unified, just like the rest of our country, has a variety of racial and ethnic groups. And our goal will be to provide equitable representation for all of them. Next slide. So as you can see, the Central Unified School District continues a trend that we have seen throughout the Central Valley, in that it has grown by about nearly 17% from 2010. All areas have grown at least 10%. And as you can see there, again, the varied districts, some have grown higher, some have grown lower. While we have a more or less 17% increase, district area number 2 grew by nearly double that, at about 30%. So again, this all points to the need for redistricting. On the same note, what we have here is we have estimated data from 2025 and 2030 from other outside sources, and as we can see, our population today in Central is at about 81,490. That is at or near the projected estimates for 2025 and 2030. So what that tells us is that Central Unified is probably exceeding estimates for growth, and given the geography and opportunities there, we're probably going to see a continued growth going forward. However, at this point, the geography of the new trustee areas will be defined primarily on the existing 2020 census data that we showcased previously. Population variance. Now, under the Fair Maps Act and under standard practices, there's a range of about 10% that is given as the optimal difference in population. So what the variance is here, it means is how far is the current population of an area given the average split among the number of districts. So in this case, we have 7 districts, and so again, we have to divide the 81,490 people by 7. So given that scenario, again, what we see here in population, we have a deviation of over 20%. So even at the high end, Central Unified's variance among its district is way out of proportion from what the normal would be. And again, we have some districts like District 4, which at this point is a little underrepresented by about 10%. But then we have District 2, which is overrepresented by again, 10%. So that accounts for the difference of 20% variance. So again, this is just another verification that the districts of the Central Unified School District have to be adjusted.
Thank you so much, Jesus. From here, we're going to go ahead and we'll transition to a quick technology demo before we open the floor up for questions. So I will go ahead and transition to our tech demo here. So Geonovo has deployed an interactive web mapping tool, like as we described in the slides, to enable community members to submit draft Board of Trustee districts or communities of interest. I'll go ahead and do a brief demo of both tools here. So we'll just draw a couple of draft district boundaries. And as you can see, the tool loading up here. Yeah, so as you can see, there's a series of colors here at the top. Each one can be assigned for a district. You can increase or decrease the brush size to increase or decrease the size of your selection. What you're seeing here is different census blocks, and each one of them contains population. As Jesus mentioned during the breakdown of the demographic data, each census block is assigned a specific population. So what we want to do when we're submitting draft districts is provide drafts that are somewhat balanced in population. As you can see, the population bar here is increasing in size as districts are added. So as you can see here, the areas that are close to the highway, more in the urbanized area close to Fresno, those are going to have much higher population. And if we do the same thing and zoom out to some of the more rural areas, you can see that those numbers are jumping up by much smaller increments due to the smaller population in the rural areas. And one of the things that we'll be looking for, and that the application provides as a guide, is the deviation. Jesus mentioned during this portion of the presentation that we are looking for a deviation of less than 10%. Obviously, as close to 0 is better, but a maximum of 10% is what we're looking for. If you'd like to edit and erase census blocks from items that you've drawn in already, we have a handy little erase tool here, and you can use that, and you can see that the population will actually subtract from the blocks that were highlighted. And if you like, while you're drawing your draft districts, you can also see a demographic breakdown based on the census block data contained within each geography, which is kind of cool because it actually shows you on the fly, real-time updates of your districts as you're drawing draft districts, which is a very useful and helpful tool. We want the public to be able to not only draw and submit draft districts, but also make sure that they're eligible and following all of the necessary guidelines for redistricting. A very similar tool is possible for community of interest. I'll go ahead and just briefly do a demo on that. Let's let it load here. And again, exact same tool. You can increase or decrease the brush size to select more or fewer census blocks. And we'll go ahead and select a few here. And we'll just, when you're done drawing a community of interest, you can say 12.9. If you like, you can also give it a description here. When you're done, you can actually save your districts or your communities of interest using this save button at the top of the screen. So we'll just say Central Unified Test 1209. Okay, now it's saved. And when you go back to the main page, you'll actually, if you refresh this, you'll actually see that item pop up in the public map gallery, which is a very handy tool because everybody will be able to see the drafts that have been drawn by the community, and that'll also help us as the demographic and mapping consultant see the trends that are being submitted throughout the community. The final demo that I'd like to showcase here is our Geocim tool. This enables you to draw communities of interest, and this application is actually very useful because it's actually designed for either desktop or mobile devices. So it's actually very handy if you're using a mobile phone or tablet, iPad. You can go into this tool, draw a community of interest. We'll say, yes, this is a community of interest. Give it a name. Affiliation, USD community members. And you can give this the name of any organization or informal group if you have a name here. This box here gives you an opportunity just to give us some final thoughts. This is something that as the demographer we'll use this to provide or to in our analysis for specific information. You also have the opportunity to upload images if you like. And let's see, we'll go ahead and we'll just add the CUSD logo and a nice Geonovo logo here. And when you're done, you can click submit and you're ready to go. So yeah, that's the conclusion of our presentation and technology tools. We'll go ahead and open up the floor to questions.
Hey, Alex, this is Steve. I just want to jump in for a minute. Can you talk a little bit more about communities of interest and what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. A community of interest, it can be, so it's defined by common interests or characteristics of a community or neighborhood within a defined geographic area. So really the main component there is that there has to be a defined geographic component to it, especially for us as the demographer to consider it for redistricting. So for example, let's say that you know, there's a we know that in Central Unified there's a very strong and vibrant Punjabi community. Let's say, for example, that you know, folks in that community want to define their geographic area. They can submit their area as a community of interest, and you know, provide comments as to, you know, what they'd like to see as far as you know, services from the school district, things that areas of interest or items that they would like to see you know, more action from the board, you know, anything that that would be related to the common core interests of that particular community. It could be Punjabi, you know, Latino community. It could even be you know, things that are related to safety that are not necessarily a particular ethnic or language group, but it could be like a common interest. So let's say that you know, Central High School, there's you know, a strong community where a lot of the football team lives there. There could be, you know, parents of Central High School football, and you know, as long as they have common interests that can be served by the board that are also defined by a geographic area, those are things that we can definitely consider as a community of interest to include in a single trustee area. And Jesus, if there's anything you'd like to add on community of interest, feel free to jump in.
Yes, absolutely. While it's true that a community has to be defined by geography, so for instance, we could have school attendance areas. We mentioned that as a community of interest, or schools are also community of interest. What are not community of interest, and again, this is specified in the Fair Maps Act, are things like a political affiliation. So none of the work that we will be doing will take into account any political affiliation. Also, as defined by the Fair Maps Act, the residence of trustee areas is not to be considered as a community of interest. And so that's actually embedded again in the Fair Maps Act. And so as you could see from the slides that we presented, we did not mention the trustees by name in any of our maps. And we're going to pretty much continue that trend because this is, after all, a brand new decade. So names, political affiliations are not communities of interest, but anything that is related to geography obviously is. And so Alex pretty much mentioned the majority of it. And looking forward to see what communities emerge from all the people down there in the Central Unified. Okay, let's take it back to you, Alex.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jesus. Yeah, we'll go ahead and just open up the floor for public questions and comments. Steve, were there possibly any items that you'd like us to provide additional information on?
I thought maybe you could mention the lookup tool that is being worked on right now, and then also just reiterate what people were able to do with the tools. Just kind of a summary of that.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. So the lookup tool that we're developing for Central Unified, it's going to be a map-based tool. We've actually started analyzing the data for the school attendance areas, and we've already, as you saw in the presentation, we've already done some initial analysis on the trustee areas. So in a nutshell, that tool will enable anyone in the community to type in their address, search for their address on a map, and identify which trustee area that they currently reside in, and also which school attendance area that they currently reside in. We will have that information for the elementary, middle/junior high, and also the high school attendance areas. As far as the other technology tools, the links for the interactive mapping tool, the GeoDistricts tool, that's available. That link should be available on the Central Unified website shortly. Steve, you can confirm if that has already been posted on the website.
Yes, it has. So it's actually on our public info page. If you go to the Central Unified District webpage and click on public info, there'll be a link there for the trustee redistricting study, and they open that and they will be able to see the tools right there and access them right there, and they are in the different languages as well.
Alex, did you want to demonstrate the Punjabi community of interest tool as well? I don't know if we can understand it, but is it available?
Yeah, I can just jump through the menus real quick, but full transparency, I'm unable to read or speak Punjabi, so I'll just go ahead and showcase the tool so that we could so the public can see what we have there. So let me go ahead and pull that up. Pull up Punjabi. I'll go ahead and start a screen share again.
While he's doing that, I'd also like to mention that we will be reviewing all comments and all lines that come in either through this tool or through the other tool. And then from that, we will then be evaluating, let's say we have, 20 comments from this interactive tool for a specific geography. What we will do is we'll take all of those geographies and come up with a composite area and identify that as a community of interest. Also, for people that generate whole districts, we will evaluate those districts, and if they are within the bounds of 10% variance, high or low, we will then post those available on our website for the rest of the community to review. So please submit lines. We're anxious to see what emerges from the community. Go ahead, Alex, and good luck.
Yeah, no, and just to build on Jesus's point there, that community involvement, it really does make a difference. I know sometimes people can think that maybe their single voice doesn't make a difference, but that community input, it really does help to guide us as to what is really important to the community. And we really do take that into consideration while we're doing our demographic analysis and creating draft districts for the board to consider. So I'll go ahead and jump into the Punjabi Geocim. This is the community input maps. Again, and we also have a disclaimer here. This was done in Google Translate, and it may have some errors. So I apologize in advance. But again, it's the exact same functionality. If you have a mobile device, the tool actually tried to automatically zoom the map for you. But if you're using a desktop or laptop like we're using for this presentation, you can go ahead and just click on the map. As you can see here, because I'm using a non-mobile device, it cannot verify my location. Let's see. So again, you can just use the tool here. We'll draw a nice community of interest area. And another thing here is if you'd like to make changes to the area that you've drawn, you can grab the endpoints of where you drew and either expand or contract the area as needed. Or if you want to just completely start over, you can click this little pencil tool in the corner, click on the trash can for delete, and that'll delete the tool, delete the geography, and enable whoever's submitting to start over. So again, we can just draw a new geography here. And again, all the same options as the other tools. And we will be working with the team to to consider feedback, whether it's coming from the Spanish tool, the English tool, or the Punjabi tool. And again, just like the other tools, you can upload images if you like, up to 4 images. We didn't want to make this too cumbersome. So you can submit none if you don't want to, and you can also submit up to 4 if you like. So we are definitely looking forward to seeing that input from the community, and yeah, no, we hope that we get great participation during this process.
Thank you, Alex. That's great. Appreciate it. And again, we can take comments now. We can also we look forward to people using these tools and submitting those back to the site so that we can get some feedback that way. And again, these first 2 community meetings are going to be primarily input based, and the next board meeting on January 11th will be the time where we can provide feedback to the board at that time on some of the comments and what we're seeing in terms of anything that's being submitted. And at that point, we'll be able to share some multiple options with the board for their consideration in February. And then there will be 2 more community meetings following, as we discussed, with those draft maps to be looked at and more opportunities for public input. So again, I'll just pause here for a minute and see if there's any other questions for another minute. And I see in the chat box, we are discussing getting maybe some further translation on the tools so that can help refine some of that language if we need to. Okay, well, I do not see any other comments in the chat box in terms of questions. Oh, excuse me, Barbie, is there a hand?
There's somebody with a hand up, Yadira Bice.
Oh, okay.
There's also a question in the chat, Steve.
Thank you. Let me,
Good morning.
hi, Yadira. Yeah, go right ahead.
Just curious, how long is this program or this tool gonna be on, well, for us as community to be part of it? How long it's gonna be for the community? Well, how long it's gonna stay for us to upload or search for any question we got?
Thank you very much for your question. So the only limitation is 1 week in advance of the final public meeting, which is currently scheduled for February 8th. We will have to cut off all public input 1 week, just following the best practices of the California Fair Maps Act. So at this time, assuming that we hold that final public meeting on February 8th, the cutoff for draft communities of interest and trustee area districts will be February 1st, which is 1 week in advance of the final public meeting date. Any community members are welcome to submit either draft districts or communities of interest using our Geodistricts mapping tool or the Geocim tool, as we demonstrated in any of the 3 available languages up until February 1st.
Thanks, Alex. And I see there was another question in the chat box about the Island Water Park area for redistricting, and Jesus responded to that. Luz, I don't know if there's any other clarification you need on that question, but we did see your question there.
Yes, if it's part of the district, then it will be redistricted. And from what I saw when I was looking at the data, the district adjacent to Fresno, right, the Fresno County line, it did bisect half of the lake up there. So again, if it's within the jurisdiction of the Central Unified School District boundary, then it will become part of a trustee area.
Hi, this is Luz Lopez. I apologize. I'm at work and I joined the meeting late. Will you have a second meeting so that I could get the full scope, because I feel a little lost. I didn't get the first 30 minutes of your meeting. That way I could understand what the redistricting is, you know, what's going on, because I feel a little lost. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem at all. We're glad to have you. And we do have the next meeting is going to be next Thursday night, the 16th of December at 6 p.m. Luz. So if you can make that meeting. Again,
Okay.
we have this, the information is on our website as well under public information. And the PowerPoint slide presentation is there as well as all of these tools.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I will make it next Thursday on time.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
since there's time, if there aren't other questions and she's here, could we do just a quick review of the redistricting process? I don't want to stop any other questions, but she's here right now, so.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, and any other questions, and otherwise we'll kind of loop back and Luz, if there's specific questions that you have, please let us know that as well. We can go right to the point of what your questions might be.
Okay, if you could just do a recap and maybe think of any questions that I have. But at this point, I don't know what's going on.
Sure. Alex, take it away.
Yeah. Sure, I'd be glad to do just a brief recap. I won't go through the whole presentation again, but I'll just kind of give the highlight version. So at a high level, redistricting is the process of rebalancing election district areas every 10 years after the release of each decennial census. So 2000, 2010, 2020. The next one will be 2030. This is done to ensure that election districts have equal population for equal representation across districts. There are currently 7 trustee areas for Central Unified School District. Each of the current trustees are assigned a specific geographic area. And those areas are up for rebalancing and redistricting for population, for demographic changes, for growth, et cetera, every 10 years. The tools that we're providing for public input, especially the geographic tools, those enable community members to identify either communities of interest, which is basically a geographic area that is important to you. It could be, these are very subjective. They're meant to collect qualitative data from the community. What's important to them, what communities do they want to keep geographically intact for a specific trustee area. And as the demographer, we are working with Central Unified School District to provide draft maps, demographic analysis, and provide the best data and information that we can to the Board of Trustees so that they can adopt new district maps according to the 2020 census.
And Luz says also the Central Unified School District is growing very rapidly, as all of you know that live there. My family lived there as well, so I'm quite familiar with all the changes. And the growth is actually faster than some projections that are in place right now. So what we can expect the Central Unified to continue to grow. Now, as Alex mentioned, we do have 7 trustee areas, and the goal of redistricting is to balance them out so that none are too high or too low. So at this point, the current trustee areas are out of balance. They're 16% out of balance from a high to a low. While 10% is the goal, our hope is that we can bring that that difference in population to near zero. And I'm confident that we can do that. Some districts are higher and some districts are lower, so there's going to be quite a lot of change. So again, as Alex has mentioned, our goal is to create districts that are equitable to and representative of the community. And so geography and area and all of that is important. Another factor that we needed to consider is what's called the Federal Voting Rights Act. And if we can create what are called VRA, or Voting Rights Act districts. And real quickly, a VRA district is an area that's geographically compact that has a majority of a population of a protected class, and that would be Latino, African American, Asian American, or protected language minority. And so one of the projects that we're going to do is evaluate the Central Unified School District to see how many or if any of these geographies would lend themselves to creating VRAs. Finally, a lot of what is going to be driven here is by community. And so the voice of the community, you know, Luz, you and everybody else on this call, we welcome your input. The school district welcomes your input, and we want to hear what you have to say. And so the tools that we're deploying will allow the community to voice their opinions. And so our goal here is to be as transparent as possible, you know, using the best technology, and definitely to get you guys districts that are reasonable and within the allotable time, which I think we mentioned is February, right, Alex? That's the end of our project. So that's roughly, you know, right now is the time for the community to be engaged, and we're looking forward to that from everybody involved.
Thank you for recapping, but I mean, this sounds like a very positive, you know, future especially for the Central. There's a lot of areas that are underrepresented in this district. And yes, I do agree that we do need a community involvement. So thank you so much for the information.
Absolutely, Luz. And actually, just one final note here. So the lookup tool that it's actually in progress. We're hoping to deploy that very soon. That tool will be available for a year after the redistricting process is over. So while the public input that has a cutoff of February 1st, Geonovo will be making the map lookup tool for school attendance areas and trustee areas available until for 1 year after the redistricting process is completed.
And the maps are housed on our website as well on the facilities page. Our current trustee maps and then our future maps will be on the website as well. And the reason why we finished this up in February is so that we can provide the files, the maps and files over to the elections office, county elections office, because generally for school districts, you have a board election every 2 years on even years. So there will be an election coming up in November of 2022. And so it gives the elections office time to receive that information and to be able to distribute ballot information for the next upcoming election. Did you have any other questions or comments, Luz?
Well, I know I live here in the Island Water Park area, but you know, I have I used to live in Biola, and Biola is 99% Spanish speaking, and many of them do not have Parent Square or are not aware of some of these meetings because of language barrier. Will there be some kind of information for Spanish speaking or Hmongs or Punjabis, you know, that are accurate interpretation for them so that they know what's going on?
We do strive to provide translations for the information that we provide from the district, and your comment is noted in terms of that area. So we will talk about you know, making sure that we're reaching out in that area as well as all other areas of the district. Ms. Davis, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah. Well, just if you could explain how you set up the start of the meeting, that we're running translated sessions right now too.
Oh, right.
I think that would be important to know, because we agree, and these meetings have to be in multiple languages.
Thank you. Yeah, so Luz, at the beginning of this meeting, we were introduced our interpreters. We have a Spanish interpreter and a Punjabi interpreter, and so they are available for these community Zoom meetings as well to provide interpretation. So that is actually available right now as we're talking. Does that help answer the question?
Yes, thank you so much. Sorry, I'm being a pest.
No, it's we love the feedback. We love the comments. Thank you.
Yeah, these are great questions. Thank you so much for participating.
Luz, my family's from Biola as well.
There you go.
I know it well. It's a great little town.
It sure is.
Okay, I see there might be a few more comments in the chat box. And Nora mentioned there in the, if you've seen the chat box, talks about interpretation there as well. Yep. Okay, anyone else? Last chance here as we're coming up to the top of the hour. Don't want to cut anyone off, but want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. And again, our next meeting will be at 6 o'clock next Thursday evening, and there'll be an announcement being made for that meeting as well. So, okay, well, we want to thank our community for getting on with us today. And we want to thank our presenters. Thank you, Alex and Jesus, and thank you to our interpreters. We appreciate everyone who was part of this call, and we're excited to hear from the community. As mentioned in the chat box, we want to make these tools available to as many people as want to use them, and be able to get as much community input as we can, and provide that information to the board. So thank you again for being with us today, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.